Consolidated Plant Services and Banyule City Council. Interlock backhoe mechanism.
My name is Damien Renahan. I'm the Safety and Wellbeing Coordinator for Banyule City Council. Here at Banyule we had an incident last year whereby a backhoe overturned. We knew we had to come up with an engineering solution to avoid these overturning situations from occurring again.
On the back of the backhoe you have what you call a backhoe carriage, which slides to side. Then you've got the arm which slews from 180 degrees. If the backhoe carriage is off completely to one side and you've slewed at the opposing side and you've reached, it's very, very unstable. So they were operating at the extremities of the backhoe, which led it to rolling over. We engaged with as many people involved with the operation of the machine as possible, better understanding what the machine actually was tasked to do and what the limitations were that we could impose on it. With everything that we do is always start off with hierarchy control. We went straight pretty much to an engineering control. So we needed to bring as much weight back within the stabilisers as we could. The best way to do that was to bring the backhoe carriage all the way over to one side. So that naturally acted as a counterweight. When the backhoe was fully extended across the opposing side, so the backhoe carriage is this way and the arm is this way, it's more stable.
It was good because we were sort of on the same page. If it's on the opposite side, you can't slew it too far and everything else. So it's all been modified to rectify any problems.
So there's several elements to it. The brains of it is this grey box. We have 4 sensors. We have 2 which are mounted here. This detects the position of the arm in reference to the machine, and it all comes back to weight and balance. So these send signals to this box, and depending on the position of it, it will allow the machine to do certain things and stop it from doing other things in certain positions.
I do feel a lot safer, and everyone else should be under the same impression, how we operate safely and efficiently.
Collaboration was really fantastic between Banyule, John, and also Case, the support from the manufacturer, because obviously they got to sign off on what we do, and they were very much in support of it too. So yeah, it was great, it worked really, really well.
I want to go home at the end of the day, see my family. Just be safe and make everyone safe around you.
Level crossing removal project. Cranbourne line upgrade.
My name's Cranbourne. I am an Acting Deputy Director for Level Crossing Removal Projects. LXRP removes level crossings, duplicates lines throughout the network in Melbourne. The project is the Cranbourne line upgrade project, and part of that project was to undertake putting a new bridge across the Emerald Creek.
Typically with bridge construction we would build it in fairly large segments and then lift it into place with your Emerald Creek. It was difficult access from both sides, quite a steep embankment which presents a safety risk as well as an environmentally sensitive area with some protected species in the creek below. Very, very early on we identified that a traditional method was not going to be best placed for this particular one, and then we started to explore what are those other strategies that we can utilise to build the bridge, and eventually we landed on launching the bridge. You can essentially build it off to the side of the creek in a dry area. It's then moved out over the bridge essentially by pushing it out with a series of jacks, and to be able to do that over sort of a 50 or 60 metre gap, there's a significant counterweight that is put in the back of the bridge so that at all times you can control the load and where that bridge is going to land.
Well, there's a lot in the planning stage. We had a 4D model that we come up with the design. We went through that and then checked the model against how the buildability. We got all the central locations of those lifting points all 3D and 4D, and that eliminated a lot of the other things out on site.
The benefits to constructing it in this methodology is rather than having people working at heights, it allowed it to be constructed on the ground in a safer environment, being able to reduce the number of crane lifts by 60% from 15 down to 6. Every time you're lifting, it's a high risk activity. Anytime we can minimise the amount of that work being undertaken, we are thereby reducing the risk of serious events occurring.
Yeah, it was coordinated really well. It was different how they jacked it across the creek instead of lifting it. Exciting to be involved in something like that because I don't think it happens that often. Obviously a lot less can go wrong compared to cranes being set up.
It's the first one that's been done on LXRP's networks. This is quite an achievement for us to do this kind of project, and it looks pretty cool as well.
The general feel and the takeaway from the workforce is that it was absolutely something that they were glad to be a part of, and will be a legacy hopefully to certainly the level crossing removal portfolio in terms of how work can be completed.
Patrick Terminals Melbourne. Straddle proximity system.
My name's Chris Brewster. I'm the Terminal Manager here at Patrick Terminals Melbourne. We have roughly 370 employees on site 24/7. As a container terminal, we move containers on and off the ships, to and from trucks. Previous procedures were very much based on administrative controls. We had our crane spreader that would come out over the wharf, and then you'd have a straddle carrier that would come underneath that crane. And the interactions of that put that straddle driver at risk, and we had a number of instances where there was actually collisions between that crane spreader and the straddle. What we had to look at was how can we try and put in place measures that would actually assist both the crane driver and straddle driver to make sure that those interactions didn't occur again. So we involved our HSRs, our engineering department and our safety department to look at what options are out there available in the workplace. We actually have a laser system already on site that we use in another area. So our engineering department looked at how we could utilise that same laser to protect that straddle driver.
It's a system that basically has ownership of space. You don't know it's there. No idea until you do the wrong thing. That's as easy as you can make it for an operator. So it just sits there as like a silent witness. Essentially, we've got two transmitters on the waterside leg there, on this side, and we've got on the north side as well, we've got two transmitters. They send a beam across to two receivers. Underneath the two receivers, we've got two sirens, same on the northern leg. So 120 decibel sirens make an awful lot of noise.
Because we work shift work, people get fatigued, and sometimes you just make small mistakes, and some small mistakes down here can cause a lot of injuries. This system is something that actually gives me peace of mind while I'm driving the cranes. So if I pick a container up on the outboard cell in the vessel and I start pulling the joystick hard to go along across to the wharf, and somebody's broken the beams, the machine ramps down slowly for me. There's no jerking or jolting, and I can actually catch the swing of the container very safely, even though they're full containers.
It took a bit of time to develop and test and trial in different scenarios, and once we had that, and we haven't had a collision since.
I want to get home at the end of the day, plain and simple, and I want everybody around me to be able to go home safely every single day. Pretty sure that's the motto of the company. Something here, is that safe?
Synergetics Consulting Engineers, towards zero exposure.
My name is David Collins. I am the founder and principal engineer here at Synergetics Consulting Engineers, and our job is to solve wicked problems. What happened is that I got a phone call from a gentleman, Gaurav Lamba at Metro Trains, and said, Dave, we're trying to spray paint full trains inside an existing building, and we need some help to develop a ventilation system that will keep people safe.
Metro operates a zero harm policy. We manage critical risks within the workplace, and we were very keen that the introduction of this facility didn't give us a new risk.
The problems that existed with the existing building that we were asked to transform was that it was a workshop. It was not a spray painting booth. If you can imagine spray painting at home, most of that paint ends up in the airstream and it travels downwind, or maybe you breathe some of it in too. And so the purpose of the ventilation system is to capture that fume before it can contaminate other surfaces or people can breathe it in. And then you have a particular problem that can lead to an explosion. And that was something that was most critical for us, and that we gave particular attention to that.
So the solution was based purely on the controlled airflow pattern inside the facility, and that controlled airflow pattern was monitored by the computational fluid dynamics study that was carried out by Synergetics. They did various simulations that make sure that the people present in the workshop, they are not exposed to any buildup of the solvents, and the environment is absolutely safe to work in.
We had ideas about what might work, but we ended up with a solution after hundreds of experiments to figure out what was the optimum. Very low in concentrations of solvent, minimum exposure for the spray painters themselves, and to do that in a way which doesn't adversely affect the spray painting process. The consultation process was extensive. Metro Trains is a large organization, particularly impressed by the way that their staff managed to involve us in discussions with basically all of the other workers on site, And all of them not only had to be consulted with, but they had to be satisfied with.
I think it's so innovative that we had a group of people get together, come up with the airflow situation for the space that we had to control, the length of the vehicle, the platforms, all the things that had to come together to make this a safe process to produce paint finish on the trains that Melbourne can be proud to enjoy, and it was successful.